Hi, this is Brian Kim. I want to share with you this case of a patient who was referred to me with a ruptured globe. So my partner saw this patient. Patient had cataract surgery elsewhere, fell out of bed. He was trying to get out of bed, fell, hit his eye on the corner of his nightstand, and then he presented to my partner with complete vision loss. The patient essentially had an open globe with rupturing of his cataract incision. There was vitreous to the wound. There was also significant vitreous hemorrhage. And the lens, the single piece acrylic lens, is essentially dislocated anteriorly and tilted. This patient had a B scan to make sure that the retina was fine. And I want to explain something very clearly. Even though I'm going to repair this ruptured globe, perform a vitrectomy, a pars plana vitrectomy, and remove the dislocated IOL, it's very, very important to understand the context of a ruptured globe. Normally, if you have a really severe ruptured globe and you have subconjunctival hemorrhage and stuff like that, you have to rule out a posterior rupture, right? A rupture along the rexus muscle insertion sites or a scleral laceration somewhere else. You want to rule that out. But this patient had zero subconj hemorrhage. Essentially, all the forces were directed toward the corneal wound. So I was very confident that this patient had a localized rupture only at the corneal wound. And so I felt like this was a good strategy in this patient. And again, you didn't want to lose that dislocated IOL. So you're going to see how I handle this case and the decisions that I make with each step of the way. So you can see I'm putting the standard style Lieberman speculum, but I was very, very careful as I was retracted the lids to make sure there was no pressure on the globe as I did this. I didn't really appreciate any significant pressure being placed on the globe with this speculum. You can see there's very difficult view of anything in the anterior chamber. There's a lot of blood there, but as I progress throughout the case, I'll have a better idea of what's going on. So I put a Weck-Cel sponge right over the incision. And again, not much vitreous there, but there is a little bit of vitreous to the wound. So when you're facing this situation, you have to assess what to do next. And so first I push some dispersive viscoelastic through the incision, and then now I have a better view of what's going on because of all that blood and stuff. I couldn't really see clearly, but now I can see very clearly that the single piece acrylic lens is positioned just like that, and it's clearly tilted. Part of it's coming towards the anterior chamber, and part of it again is tilted downward. And so I felt like I needed to deal with that. So I go ahead and make my incisions first on the right side and then the left side. I'm putting some intracameral triamcinolone, but as I push that volume in, look, that large bolus of dispersive viscoelastic that I put in originally just shoots right out. But that's fine. Again, I pushed that viscoelastic just to assess what was going on, and now I know what's going on. So I pushed that triamcinolone in so I can visualize what's going on in the anterior chamber. Go ahead and just make sure that there's no vitreous to the wound. And then I place my 10-0 nylon suture at the main incision. So I want to close the system, right? You have a ruptured globe. Close the system so you have better control of the eye. And this is bimanual anterior vitrectomy using a 20 gauge irrigation cannula. And the vitrector is in my left hand. And I'm doing the vitrectomy in the subincisional area, making sure I'm trying to clear the wound. And as vitrectomy is progressing, you can see that big blood clot came out, and then there's some residual lens material, like a little bit of a Sommering's ring material that's there. So I'm just go ahead and eat that piece. You want to just take your time when you're doing vitrectomy like this, because remember, there's vitreous there, but there's again OVD as well, and they're all mixed together. So when the OVD is in the way, it's not going to allow the lens material and the vitreous to come forward. So you just be patient, hang in there. I'm able to eat the rest of the vitreous. So now that I feel confident that I've cleared the anterior chamber of vitreous, I don't want to lose that lens. So I go in with microforceps and I grab the lens because it's really basically about to fall. And then I pull that trailing haptic through the main incision. And by doing it that way, I'm just holding the lens in place so that it won't fall. So I need to remove the vitreous behind the lens. So the best way to do that is to go pars plana. So I go ahead and hydrate my incisions to get a nice firm globe, fill the eye with BSS, indent the sclera with the back of the trocar needle. Again, 4 millimeters back. I tunnel about 3 millimeters, and then I turn and dive down perpendicular. You see, as I did that, I didn't have any collapsing of the anterior chamber. Why? Because I placed my suture, and then I hydrated the incisions. I make another incision for my AC maintainer. Again, this is a 22 gauge thin-walled AC maintainer, which I love. Go ahead and tape it down with some steri strips. And now I have good infusion anteriorly, and I have a pars plana port now, so I can eat the vitreous from behind. But first, look, see, I grab the lens with my left hand, securing the lens. This is with the IOL holder, it has serrated teeth, so I have a good grip of the lens, and then I remove the vitreous underneath the lens here. So holding the lens with my left hand, and then performing vitrectomy in the right hand, removing the blood as well as any vitreous that's tethered to the lens. Now again, of course, I did B-scan early on to make sure everything looked okay. And so remember, you want to make sure the globe is otherwise all right. You don't want to be going in there with a pars plana trocar if you're not sure that the retina is intact. Once I've removed the vitreous, go ahead and cut the suture at the main incision because I need to take this lens out now. So I'm going to take the lens out. And at this point, you want to turn off infusion. There's no reason to turn on infusion now because all you're going to do is invite more vitreous to come out of your wound. So irrigation is off. I cut the lens about 90%, not all the way. And why is that? Because this is a gummy lens. I'm able to just grab that right half of the lens and just pull it out. And as I yank it, it just breaks it off. And so that's my other tip. You don't want to lose that second piece, so cut it just part ways. And then as you yank it out, since you're holding the left piece with the forceps, it just breaks off. And then now I switch hands and then pull the second piece, the left side piece, out. There's a little string of vitreous there, so I didn't pull too hard, and then I amputated it off. Actually, it could have been a little bit of capsule. It doesn't really matter, but I was very careful as I pulled the lens out to go ahead and amputate anything that was trailing it. Go ahead and put some more sutures in as well. And I'm going to put tight sutures here because there's no reason to make this an astigmatically neutral incision. There's no benefit to that. I don't want any vitreous to come to the wound, so I make a really, really tight wound in this context. This is, after all, a ruptured globe. And when the rupture occurred at that cataract incision, it probably opened up that incision in an uncontrolled manner. And so therefore, I'm going to go ahead and suture that incision as tight as I can. And then I go in with the vitrector, removing any more vitreous that I may see. You can see there's clearly some vitreous hemorrhage there. You can see some blood clot that's being removed. And another thing you're going to appreciate that there's no iris. So with this rupture, the iris is essentially, I guess it just kind of disintegrated with the trauma. And so you don't see really much of a pupil at all in this patient. I noticed that my left para was leaking, and so I go ahead and place a tenonylon suture through that paracentesis as well, because we're wrapping it up here now. Do some more vitrectomy over that incision. Again, if there was leakage to that incision, there may be vitreous at that incision as well. So I make sure I do some vitrectomy over that incision. I'm making sure I'm doing vitrectomy in the area of the AC maintainer as well, because as I pull it out, I don't want to have vitreous coming and following that AC maintainer as I pull it out. So I go ahead and hydrate my incision. So that's the end of the case. So again, this is a patient who had a ruptured globe from a fall. There is a localized rupture over the cataract incision. You know there's no scleral laceration because there's no subconjunctival hemorrhage posteriorly. The B scan confirmed that the retina was fine. The lens was dislocated and tilted. So I was able to perform very careful removal of vitreous around the lens implant that was dislocated, starting anteriorly with bimanual anterior vitrectomy, and then pulling that haptic up and using triamcinolone to help me visualize the vitreous, closing the incision first, pulling the trailing haptic out of the incision to secure it, and then sealing up my incisions, going through with the pars planar trocar, holding the lens with my left hand with IOL holders, and then performing vitrectomy through the pars plana incision to remove the vitreous that might be tethered to the lens underneath it, and then pulling the lens piece out by cutting it first in half, pulling each piece separately, closing the incisions to make sure they're completely self-sealed, and then performing more pars plana vitrectomy. Again, I felt like this was a very well-executed ruptured globe repair. Again, you want to make sure that the retina is intact. You want to be very certain that the ruptured globe is isolated, as it was in this case, in the anterior location, in this case, the corneal incision. It just goes to show the cataract incision, although it seals after surgery, is really a weak point relative to the rest of the eye tissue. And so it's been my experience, not just this patient, but even other patients, when they have ruptured globe and they're pseudophakic, oftentimes they will rupture through their original cataract incision. So again, it's very important to have a good strategy when you're dealing with a ruptured globe, as you can see demonstrated in this case. At the end of the case, I go ahead and inject some subconjunctival steroid and antibiotics. At the end of the case, the cornea was clear. We did have to deal with some pressure problems, and the vitreous hemorrhage is clearing up slowly. No clear evidence for an optic neuropathy. There's no obvious APD. But fortunately, we'll be able to go back later on and perform a secondary IOL placement. And we'll also consider the artificial iris. So I hope this was helpful to you, and I thank you for your attention.